everybody. I'm like the outsider over here. I'm a radiologist. For those of you who don't know what that is, I'm Instagram for doctors. Um, but I usually get a larger laugh for that, but I'm going to wait for the slides to come because they're really funny. You'll find that my slides lack any sort of class because I'm not a designer. And I have not, it's like just AI generated slides from PowerPoint. So this is like as boring as Bill Gates. Okay, so there's a button here to take the slides. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about design for the enhancement of well-being. I have a deep, in-depth knowledge of this, which is absolutely zero. But anyways, how does this slide go forward? Okay. Nobody even this doesn't want to hear my talk. That's really bad. What? Expelliarmus. No, doesn't work. Fiducio. Change Slido. Oh, great. Oh, go down. That's what she said? No. All right. We got this. All right. Okay, so, so what is mental well-being? So WHO describes mental health as basically being a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well, and work well, and contribute to their community. This basically sounds like an advertisement for an IB school, right? But essentially, this is sort of, I think what I wanted to do, yeah. It's okay, they have an IB school. But the bottom line over here is that once we understand what mental health is, one can sort of give some perspective of what I'm trying to talk about here. So I think the thing we have to think about is what makes us feel better. And if we think about it, it's good outcomes. Whatever work we're doing, if we have good outcomes, if we can do it economically, sometimes if we can do it by spending a lot, depends on which side of the fence you are on. If we can do it efficiently, and if we can do it comfortably. So if we can do these four things, that generally makes us feel better, right? And essentially, you can shuffle these around depending on whether you're from Sobo, Macabo, or from any place you don't want to go, right? So you can, basically how you would look at this. So, how does design link into mental well-being? And I think over here, if we think about structural design, it's just about where you're at. I think you have improved ergonomics. What this does is it will reduce fatigue, it increases your productivity, and that would lead to an improved sense of mental well-being. On the other hand, you have aesthetics, right? You have all these tomes and tomes of stuff written about. I actually found a study yesterday that talked about how they created spaces and they took 33 different people of different ages into it, and they found that amongst color and everything else, people preferred curved lines to straight lines, and that was sort of helpful. But just saying, there's so much work done on how these things can affect your mental well-being. So whether it's the kind of space you create, the geometry of the space, whether you segregate the space into noisy or community areas versus quiet workspace areas, color schemes. People talk about touch. Like my touching this rough table is really make this talk a little bit more sensuous. No, I'm just kidding. We can talk about sound and where sound comes in or goes, and then lonely, of course. And then there's nature. Nowadays everybody's talking about so much about how just because we're living in very sort of concretized spaces, we look at spaces that are more sort of natural, and that's better for our mental well-being. So how do I think about design? Like this. This is precisely how I think about design, like a big zero. But no, I normally think about it as being, it should be practical. So the first thing is that it should allow me to do what I need to do. It should be efficient. It should actually enhance what I do. So it shouldn't just be functional. It should help me to be, to an element, hyper-functional. And then it should be supportive. So it should provide me with a pleasant environment in which to do it. So I found this interesting paper yesterday, which I was looking over, and I thought it sort of gave an interesting perspective to how we can look at design in the general world. So architectural research, and I think you guys will understand this more than me, connecting human response to design relies on philosophical constructs. So there's philosophy to how you would build something, because that's how you think humans react to things. Psychological research is actually observational. You watch people doing things, and then you sort of, you decide, how you're feeling, what the mood is. So psychological research, investigating human-environment relationship relies on objective and subjective measures. A better understanding of the human-environment interaction could contribute to informing design strategies in ways to optimize psychological well-being and mental health. So this sounds like what I would read in Architectural Digest, right? And that's how much sense it makes to me. And then finally, although the discussion has been initiated, a commonly accepted methodology across all disciplines is lacking. So I think the main thing over here is that as a consumer or as a client who wants to use design in my life, I have a very, very poor way of articulating what I want or even understanding what I want to you. And therefore, you will make certain assumptions based on where I am and what I do, and then try and build for that scenario. So what I wanted to Expelliarmus. I swear I'm hitting the down button now. Oh, it's gone. So this is my workspace. It shows up on Architectural Digest. It's a really important field. We had some great architects working on this, but I thought I would share it with you. I know you guys really appreciate it. I'm sure you can see how the interior is coming inside. I mean, the exterior is coming inside. You can see there's a lot of botany in here and it's a tremendous space. But this is sort of my space. And we thought we were being really smart when we did this. Yeah, it's from your company. But but here the issue is we thought we were being somewhat smart by saying, okay, I like a standing workstation, so I stuck a standing workstation in the back. We had people who wanted chairs of different, so that we'll get so-called ergonomic chairs and we'll do all the rest of this stuff. What we sort of didn't realize was that the average radiologist mouse, right? So we said we're all working on computers. So everybody thought, okay, you're working on computers, great. We'll build you computer spaces that are on different things. But the average radiologist mouse travels about 2.2 kilometers in 8 hours. So that's how much I move my mouse, okay? I have a very happy mouse, no. And we click approximately 23 times per second, just in terms of what we're doing. If we look at a radiology study, an average CT scan is about 5,000 images, or 2,000 to 3,000 images. So just dragging and scrolling, that's what we end up doing a lot of the time. So it's not an average computer job. It's a very different job from what a lot of people do. And what happened as a result of this was, what happened as a result of this was we had people who would get, different kind of back support things. We had people who had foot support things in the bottom. We had people who have 3 different kinds of mice because they get repetitive stress from using the mouse in different ways. And therefore, we have very ugly cables that come up and do this stuff. And then we have like people who are like, most of our radiology books now are sitting like, somebody's a 2-book monitor person, somebody's a 3-book monitor person, somebody who has 1 at 3 books, 1 at 2 books because that's how they like to work. So it's kind of crazy. And then there's this other fix, right? So we thought, I used to get repetitive stress injury on my wrist. So we thought, oh, get a mouse pad and that'll be really helpful. And started putting a mouse pad. Then my elbow started hurting. So now my solution is to have my mouse pad with a diary behind it so that my elbow stays supported, and that's how I can work. So it's just that this is something that from day 1 to 4 years down the line, we've changed so many things in this space. And what has happened is we've created clutter. So all the time, energy, and effort that you spent on creating my aesthetic is just gone to dogs, right? So what I wanted to say, I think design has a tremendous role to play in mental well-being. I think that's a given, whether we look at it from the standpoint of functionality or we look at it from the standpoint of aesthetics. The current models that we see seem to revolve around the fact that they will give you a templated thing for what you're at from a structural perspective. You're a computer job, you're a architect, you're a whatever you are, and we'll give you a desk in that allows you to do that job. But we don't have a great way of individualized tweaking of these templated models. So think about what's coming in the future in medicine, for example. We're talking about personalized medicine, understanding that from your racial background, from your genetics, from all those other things, how should we create medicine for you? We need better, smarter communication between us as users and designers to be able to communicate on what I want. I think most of the time, I don't know how to communicate what I want. And therefore, you have little reason to, you will go down some different, rabbit holes with that. And I think design also, like the requirements of mental well-being, it's dynamic. I'm not in the same mood every day. It changes, over time. And I think these are things that I feel that we need to think a little bit more about when it comes to design, on trying to understand how we can work together and work smarter to make ourselves more productive, more satisfied with what we're doing in better environments, and therefore take us to sort of other kind of situations. Thank you.